Do the Carolina Panthers have a Bryce Young problem? It sure feels like after today's embarrassment down in New Orleans that they may have a Bryce Young problem. We'll talk about it right here on Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe or follow the show for free on YouTube, where I am live right now and live following every Carolina Panthers game. And anytime there's big breaking news, or if you ever miss a live edition of the show, all you got to do is go back and watch it on YouTube, or you can listen to it like every episode, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, on Twitter at Julian Council, where on Wednesdays throughout the entirety of the regular season, I'm right here on the show answering your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. So all you got to do is either at me or DM me over on Twitter at Julian Council. And if you feel so inclined, you'd also click that follow button and follow what I gotta say when the Panthers have a disaster like they had on Sunday, losing 47-10 down in New Orleans. Today's episode of Locked On Panthers is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Okay, so what do you want me to say? Where do you want me to start? How are we going to spin this to anything other than the Panthers just got dog-walked in New Orleans? That was embarrassing, y'all. And it truly is disappointing that any sort of optimism and encouragement that folks got from that one drive against the Bills' second team went right out the window on the first play of the game. It was a disaster for Dave Canales. It was a disaster for this offense, but primarily it was a disaster for Bryce Young. All offseason long, we have talked about how the Panthers had to get things right around Bryce Young. Last year, as a rookie, he didn't have a chance in hell, primarily because he never had Austin Corbett. He never had Brady Christensen. He never had a healthy offensive line. When Christensen tore his ACL in Week 18 in New Orleans, he right then and there was not going to be there for Bryce Young as a rookie at his full capacity. And by the time he came back, they were 0-6, and the season was already over, and he even did not provide much in those 4 games before hurting his knee yet again. Christensen, who was their worst offensive lineman in 2022, was lost after 1 game. So they never had that help up front. They also didn't have any receivers outside of Adam Thielen, as DJ Chark was a liability. Laviska Shenault was overrated by the Panthers fan base, which, what do you know? Panther fans love to overrate their players at times, even though guys like him show you they're pretty not good at all. So he didn't have a lot of help. We totally understood that. The play calling was abysmal. The coaching staff that we heralded as this all-star coaching staff was anything but. Frank Reich didn't deserve the job, didn't need to be here, and he was gone after 11 games. Thomas Brown, in over his head, terrible play caller. He was also gone once the season ended. The hope was that with Dan Morgan taking over, knowing what this city's like when this team is winning, knowing how to at least build a winner by watching John Snyder do it in Seattle and watching Brandon Beane do it in Buffalo, that possibly things would work out better with the hallway elevation to that job than when Scott Fitter, who brought Dan Morgan here, was the general manager. And with Dave Canales, his positivity, what he had done with Baker and with Chino the previous 2 seasons in Seattle and Tampa Bay, respectively, you thought that he can save Bryce Young. They thought that paying $100 million for Robert Hunt could save Bryce Young. They thought that giving $69 million to Damian Lewis could save Bryce Young, that trading Dante Jackson, who helped salt the way the game down in Atlanta today, by the way, and bringing in Deontay Johnson could help save Bryce Young. Drafting Xavier Legette, Jonathan Brooks, this was going to help save Bryce Young. But it's possible, maybe after 1 game, that the Panthers can't save Bryce Young. After watching today, I have real doubts. I saw him play poorly last year, watched every single game, and I understood what was around him was beyond effed up. But looking at today, I didn't think the offensive line couldn't protect Bryce Young. I didn't think the receivers didn't get open because I saw time and time again Bryce have a pocket, be able to step up into that pocket and miss open receivers. And even if guys recovered, he missed badly, like on his first play of the game where he overthrew Deontay Johnson and it was intercepted. Like on that 3rd and 6 that the Panthers had on the next drive where Deontay Johnson is open again and Bryce Young misses him. Then later on in the game, when Adam Thielen is there, Bryce Young overthrows him and he's intercepted. I sat there on those sidelines on that field during training camp and I watched somebody that I did not see today in New Orleans. Bryce has looked more confident. He has had a smile on his face. He has looked accurate. He has looked in command of this offense and done some of the off-platform things that made him appealing coming out of Alabama a year ago. But I did not see that Bryce Young today. I saw the same jittery, inaccurate Bryce Young we saw last year. And I didn't see much reason to be jittery. I understand he was sacked 3 times by Alontae Taylor, primarily because Dave Canales clearly has no idea how to scheme up, how to pick up a nickel blitz. And then we can get to him as a second-time play caller and all that at a latter point. But right now, we're focused on Bryce and how poorly he played. 6 of 12, 50 yards, and an interception, 2 sacks, 26.4 rating in the first half. Overall, on Sunday, 13 of 30, 161 yards, 2 interceptions, sacked 4 times, 32.8 rating. Andy Dalton, who came in and threw 1 pass, incomplete, had a 39.6 passer rating, which probably illustrates that maybe you shouldn't take passer rating that seriously if that's a possible outcome. But also it's like, wow, Bryce was that bad that Andy Dalton could come in for 1 incompletion and still, based off of the passing metric rating, be better than Bryce Young was on Sunday in this Panthers loss. I mean, what? I'm at a loss for words almost. Like, I have plenty to say, but it's just like, damn, can't even get the season off the ground 1 week into it, and people are asking me, when are they going to move on from Bryce? And when I've been asked this question throughout the offseason, I've told people it's got to be like this. Go back to 2 years ago. Zach Wilson, number 2 overall pick out of BYU for the New York Jets. He came out, did not look good. But that second year, when they went to New England, and that Jets defense played its tail off, and the Panthers defense did not do that. But when the Jets defense played their tail off, lost that game on a special teams touchdown, and because the Jets offense could not move the ball, and when Zach Wilson went up to the podium later after that game, was asked about, hey, do you have any regrets? Do you think you could have done anything better? Like, is this on you? And he said, no. He lost the locker room after that. Robert Saleh had no choice but to move on and put Mike White in as their quarterback. Bryce Young's got to lose the locker room and keep playing like this for the Panthers to move on from him, in my opinion. Like, it's got to be that kind of bad. If he plays like he played today and he has that kind of commentary after the game, yeah, it's going to move into that direction. But right now, he's going to start week 2. Against the Chargers, he needs to start week 2 because the Panthers did not give up DJ Moore. They did not give up the first overall pick, which ended up being Caleb Williams. They did not give up a second-round pick next year. They did not give up Christian McCaffrey basically to be in position to trade up for Bryce Young, to have those assets. They didn't do all that to start Andy Dalton in week 2 of year 2 of this project with Bryce Young. They got to see him play. They got to find out whether their asset is salvageable. And more than that, because they don't need to just be salvageable, they need him to be a plus, to be someone that they can build around, that they can win with for a long time. That's what they need out of Bryce Young. So Andy Dalton, people ask me, hey, put in Andy Dalton, bench Bryce. Like, yeah, Bryce keeps throwing picks. Of course, you got to bench him in this game, but bench him next week. No, what does that accomplish? What is Andy Dalton going to do for the Panthers this season? Based off of the defensive performance, you think Andy Dalton's going to save the season? That ain't going to happen. Bryce Young needs to play. He's got to play a lot better than he played today if he wants to continue to be the starting quarterback moving forward here in Carolina and in the future. But I don't think we're at the point right now where it's time to bench Bryce for good and put in Andy Dalton, who we know ain't a solution here for this team this year and in the future. Like, this has always been to me a 3-year proposition. You have 3 years to figure out whether Bryce Young is worth exercising that 5th-year option. And typically how things go after that 3rd year is when you give it an extension to these quarterbacks. 3 years he had. And through 17 starts so far, 1 week this season, doesn't look like it's going to be headed towards any sort of 5th-year option or big-time extension for Bryce Young as the Panthers quarterback, just based off of this 17-game sample size. We can look at week 1 in a vacuum, but you can't look at week 1 in a vacuum. You have to look at everything we've seen so far from Bryce Young and this Panthers organization. And another thing I tell people, too, like, let's bench Bryce Young and put in Andy Dalton and go get a quarterback in the spring. Who's making that decision? Who's picking the quarterback? Is it David Tepper? Because last time I checked, David Tepper and Nicole Tepper are the ones who wanted Bryce Young, right? All the reporting is that Frank Reich, yes, he was on board with it, but there's a lot of thoughts that actually Frank Reich wanted CJ Stroud. So you get rid of Bryce Young, you still have David Tepper. And that's the whole of it. You can look at the quarterback. He played well. You want to get rid of the quarterback. The owner's going to make the decision, y'all. The owner wanted to move off of Cam Newton. That led them to Teddy Bridgewater. He got sick of that. That led them to Sam Darnold. He was bad. That led them to Baker Mayfield. He was bad. That led them to getting rid of McCaffrey, getting rid of DJ Moore, moving up to get Bryce Young. So sure, bench Bryce, get another quarterback, but David Tepper's the problem. And this is not to sit here and absolve Bryce Young. I'm just being honest with you. Because right now, this is a situation that the Panthers really need to work out. And as a fan, you should really want to work out. Because do you really want David Tepper trying to find another quarterback and potentially another head coach and going through this vicious cycle of suck again? Maybe you do. Because if it prevents what happened today, that might be the right decision. But Bryce Young today did not play well at all. No one is going to argue against that. The fact that he was not accurate, that he was jittery, that he did not lead his team down the field with any sort of confidence, that does not bode well for him moving forward and for this team moving forward. So, yeah, the Panthers might have a Bryce Young problem. I'm ready to say that after one game, which, again, not just one game, 17 games. I'm ready to say that after 17 games? No, I'm not. But I am alarmed at seeing a guy who looked not anything like what I've seen so far this offseason. So they got to get it figured out fast, because this season can go right down the toilet if this is how they're going to play, especially on defense throughout the season. And if your quarterback's not helping you out at all either, the Panthers got some problems, y'all. They got some problems, and I don't really know when they're going to figure it out. And one thing I found hilarious before I tuned on here to talk to y'all was I was watching Dave Canales' press conference. He talked about how they look like a team that needs to work more on their communication, a team that has not been together for long. Well, yeah, Dave, you played your offensive starters for 12 plays in the preseason. 12 plays. And I don't know how many plays they were going to get in this preseason that was going to lead to a better performance that we saw on Sunday. I really do not. But I do just find it funny that he comes out and says, yeah, maybe you just need more time together. All right, Dave. Well, you had time together and you didn't utilize it, and you get this result, 47-10 ass whooping against the Saints in New Orleans on Sunday. On defense, they got a lot to get figured out. We'll talk about the defensive performance here in just a moment on Locked on Panthers. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Right now, 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKDOWNNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKDOWNNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's something you love to learn as an adult? Do you make time to learn new things as often as you like, or was that lost in childhood? Kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. What's something you'd like to learn? Gardening, a new language, or maybe how to finally beat your friend in bowling? Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back-to-school era can come at any age. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. Ask about the defense following the Panthers' embarrassing 47-10 loss in New Orleans. Panthers head coach Dave Canales said, "We've got a lot to figure out." Yeah. No kidding, Dave. You got a lot to figure out. The Saints made a ton of history on Sunday afternoon in their butt whooping of the Panthers. The Saints had never scored on their first 3 drives in any of the games under their head coach, Dennis Allen. They did that today. The Saints' 17 points in the first quarter were a franchise record for a season opener. Matter of fact, the 47 points they scored today were a franchise record for a season opener. Just bad history altogether. The Saints scored on their first 9 drives. Just a pathetic effort from Ejiro Evero's defense. And I understand that heading to this year, there were some serious questions about this defense. There were some injuries there at outside linebacker, injuries in the secondary, and we had concerns. I had concerns. I did not think this was going to be a very good unit this year. I thought they would be better in certain aspects, like stopping the run. And at halftime, I knew right then and there, nope, got that one wrong, as the Saints had 109 yards rushing on 17 attempts. That's 6.4 yards per attempt in the first half. For the game, 37 carries, 180 yards, 4.9 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Ran all over the Panthers, a team that was 31st, according to EPA, last year against the run on defense. Do not look improved. Getting Shaq Thompson back doesn't seem to help. Getting Josie Jewell in here doesn't seem to help. A'Shawn Robinson doesn't seem to help. Jadeveon Clowney, who had 1 tackle today, didn't seem to help them at all. They got gashed on the ground, and they also made Derek Carr look excellent. He was 19 of 23, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, 142.5 passer rating on Sunday. For those who don't understand the passer rating, a perfect passer rating is a 158.3. Derek Carr was not that far off of that on Sunday against this Panthers defense. And if the defense is going to play this bad, whether it's Bryce or Andy Dalton playing quarterback and the offensive performance looking better, they're not going to win games. You cannot win in the NFL with a defense playing like this. And if New Orleans, with a brand new coordinator and Clint Kubiak, what Derek Carr is going to do this to you, what is Kansas City going to do to this team? What's Dallas going to do to this team? What's Philadelphia going to do to this team? Like that is alarming. A lot of things alarming about today's game, primarily the quarterback, but the defensive effort was, God, it was bad. Looking at more of these stats, because I got to find them right here in front of me, because I expected the pass rush to be bad. They did get 1 sack. Congratulations to Ekwuyoda getting his first career sack in an NFL game. I understood that they were going to have issues there. And honestly, that first touchdown that they had, where there was a complete bust in the secondary, where Rashid Shaheed, whatever his name is, he ran right past J.C. Horn, and clearly J.C. was looking for safety help. It looks like Jordan Fuller went underneath instead. There was a ton of pressure in Derek Carr's face on that. A'Shawn Robinson pushed his man back into Derek Carr, and Carr still hit him right on the money for that touchdown. And right off the bat, we knew, okay, this there's going to be some problems here if they're giving up 59-yard touchdowns to Rashid Shaheed and Derek Carr on the opening drive. And the fact that they couldn't get off the field, that they had penalties, that they just looked completely inept, got gassed on the ground, that is bad, y'all. Pass rush, knew it was going to be terrible. Was bad today. Carr had plenty of time. They could do whatever they wanted to do in the pocket. The run defense thought it would be better. Still could get better. It's only week one. Understand that. I don't see it. The one bright spot was that Mike Jackson played pretty well on the other side of corner opposite of J.C. Horn. Thought Troy Hill looked fine. Like the secondary, aside from that one busting coverage that they had opening game, at the corner spots, they looked totally fine. Everywhere else on that defense looked like an abject disaster. And when you look at Dante Jackson, who's, I guess, his time did kind of come up here in Carolina, but you look at him, have the interception in Pittsburgh, and you look at the fact you didn't have a pass rush. I don't think Burns did anything today in New York, but Clowney, who people wanted to have, they wanted to have him as this ace pass rusher in Carolina, something he's never been, by the way. One tackle, no impact on the game. And you look there, and the broadcast even brought it up, like, man, is Jadeveon Clowney even playing today? That's who people wanted. They wanted him, this aging player who's never lived up to the billing, who's been a worse player than Brian Burns. That's what people wanted. They wanted him instead of Brian Burns $30 million, even though it's not their money. But they'll gladly spend their money on watching this team play bad without good players, which makes absolutely no sense to me. But that's where we're at. Embarrassing defensive performance, a quarterback who looked completely lost and may not be salvageable after all the offseason acquisitions. And all of us sitting here scratching our heads just wondering, are we really going to do this for 17 games again? And when are things going to get better? We can talk about it all we want. I'll keep coming back to this. David Tepper owns the team, and until he figures things out, or if something crazy like what happened with Jerry Richardson happens, this may be it. That might not be the most sunshine roses positive thing you want to hear, but find me the positivity in what just happened today. There are a couple positive spots. We're not going to talk about that today. Of course, we'll talk about that on a latter show here on Locked On Panthers sometime later on this week. But damn, this team has any pride. This will not happen again. We'll break it down more here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. Football season is back, and the best way to get to games this fall is with Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. It's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, back here following the Panthers' 47-10 embarrassment in week one of the 2024 regular season at the hands of their division rival, New Orleans Saints. And credit to all 300 of you that have been in here. I think up to 312 folks here live with me on YouTube, where I'll be following every Panthers game this season. Reluctantly, if it's going to come to be like this every single week, but appreciate everybody coming in here and let me know if you guys are. I don't look at chat during the live stream, so maybe I'll go back and look at it later. I'm sure it's a cesspool, so y'all please behave in there and don't get at each other's throats. But I'm sure there's not good vibes after this game. And Dave Canales was asked about the vibes in the locker room. He said it's somber, that these guys have pride, that they know they're better than this. And Robert Hunt, I saw he was asked about just losing. He said, we're better than 47-10. I certainly hope you are. You weren't today, Robert, but I certainly hope moving forward that this is an anomaly. But again, if the defense can't stop the Saints, how are they stopping Mahomes? How are they stopping Hurts? How are they stopping I know the Bengals were bad today, apparently, but I'm guessing that this might be a get-right game for them if the defense is going to be this bad in Carolina this season. Like that, they got to have pride. If they don't have pride, then why even play the game? Why even show up the rest of the season if they don't have pride? Because if another performance like this happens, you got to really question what's in the hearts of these dudes in that locker room and on this team wearing processed blue and black. You got to really question that, because there's plenty of guys that are still here that have been around for all this losing, and it ain't like they seem to really turn things around today and move things in the right direction. I have real concerns about that. And I know they tore down a lot of this roster, that it's week one. There's still time to figure things out. Like, yes, there's 16 games left. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say people are overreacting, because we can't look at this just as one game. It's a multitude of things that have happened across previous seasons that we saw today. Like Dave Canales talked about getting the football right. And they turned the ball over 3 times today. 2 bad passes by Bryce. Mingo, who is a liability, and it looks like Leggett, if there's a positive, has taken over that wide receiver 3 role. He seems to have that at this point in time, and I don't see him giving it back based off of the investment they put in him anyways, and the fact that Mingo is unplayable at this point in time. And they got lucky that he didn't fumble and turn the ball over later on, because if that's in the middle of the field, it's a fumble, it's a Saints ball, and the Panthers are screwed when the game was already over anyways. Like, and then you hear from Dave Canales all offseason about how they want to be stubborn about running the football. And I totally understand. You get down 17-0. It's pretty hard to be dedicated to hand the ball off to Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders. But when you get in a situation like they had in that third quarter when they finally scored a touchdown, 4 plays. 1 was a pass to Deontay Johnson. That was a terrible throw by Bryce Young. They run a rub route. Deontay's open. I'm saying, watching it, he's got him. Overthrows it. Just simple things like that he missed today that are just unacceptable for a quarterback at the NFL level. And especially for someone who's selected at the spot Bryce Young was selected. Like, those are the things that just cannot happen, that he has to hit. Those are borderline layups when you get a guy open like that. Guys getting open was not the problem. The quarterback was the problem today. But then you get second down, to drop back to pass again. I think Bryce gets sacked. Third down, they throw the ball to Deontay Johnson. There's no chance he's going to catch it. Then fourth down, it's another pass play. Bryce is able to run, get the touchdown. But 4 plays, you're on the Saints 5. You're on their 3 at some point in time. It was maybe the 5 or 3 yard, whatever it was, goal-to-go situation, and they never run the ball. All offseason long, I heard about being stubborn about running the football. And they abandoned a run after the first quarter, which I can understand considering the game situation that they would do that. But still, 45 more minutes to play. You can run the ball, man. You can do that. Get some pressure off of your quarterback, which right off the bat, he throws a pick. You would think after that, let's start running the ball a little bit more. Let's take something off of it. And they did run the ball on that second drive, and they got a first down, but then they started to put the ball back in the air, and Bryce misses an open Deontay Johnson. They got a punt. And next thing you know, you're down 17-0. Like, they tried, and they got away from it. But the fact that you're sitting there at the goal line and at no point, and it's great they scored a touchdown. And this is nitpicky of me, I know. But seriously, it's just odd to me that a guy who said they're going to be stubborn about running the ball didn't run the ball in a situation where it would have made a lot of sense, especially when they failed to throw it in 4 times, but at least they got it in. But Dave Canales, he was asked after the game, just a message towards fans who are discouraged, if that's even the right word to use after this game. I think that's putting it lightly. And this is what he said. It's a long journey. It's a long journey to become us. I truly believe that. I knew that whether we started 4-0, 0-4, whatever that is, what I knew is that this is going to take a long time to become us. I just can't help but know that you have to have adversity to become who you are going to be. For guys to pull together, to show their character the way they did today in a real tough loss and call it what it is, again, it's 1 loss. Now we have a chance to come back, to tighten things up, and to work together. Are you encouraged by that message, Panther fans? Is anybody encouraged by that message? Talking about you got to go through adversity to become who you're going to be. J.C. Horn's been through adversity. Derek Brown's been through adversity. Shaq Thompson has been through adversity. Plenty of these guys, Taylor Moton, he's played 100 straight games, been through adversity, and ain't nothing changed. So, yeah, there's a lot to got to tighten up. The quarterback tighten some screws in his brain to get him back to not being jittery, working his feet correctly, and delivering the ball on time and accurately. You got to get that tightened up. The defense, I don't know what you're going to tighten up with the defense outside of better communication in the secondary that can prevent 1 touchdown. But Clowney said some mentality, stopping the runs mentality. I guess that mentality is lacking yet again here in Carolina, based off of what we saw today as they got gashed on the ground. It's discouraging. It's not great vibes to start off the season. And Dave Canales is somebody who is very positive, and he's going to continue to be outwardly positive. We're going to hear all these things put into a positive spin moving forward. Totally fine. That's who he is. But that's not football, man. Some days you get your ass kicked. And you can say you got to tighten things up, but it's going to take a little bit more than just tightening things up. Life is not always sunshine and roses and the positivity that he goes up there and exudes. And today, he got slapped in his pretty little face as his team got their ass kicked and got embarrassed and made a mockery of this great game yet again. So we'll see what they do moving forward, because today was not encouraging. And I'm not watching the Chargers game. It's outside of my studio going on my TV. I'll go see whatever is going on with that. But I don't feel good right now about this team. Past out just 1 week, and it is just 1 week. The whole triple your win total thing, maybe double, but right now, triple doesn't feel great. But it is 1 week. They have time. Winnable game next week, I would assume. But I thought this game was winnable. They lost by 37 points, as they're only 3.5-point underdogs. Raiders game, potentially winnable. The Bengals game feels winnable. Got to take it week to week. Got to take it day by day. They got to get the football right, because they got it wrong yet again. And that is something that you and I and everyone is so sick and damn tired of seeing here in Carolina. That's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, for our Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Again, y'all subscribe, follow the show for free on YouTube, where I'm live following every Carolina Panthers game, and appreciate 339 of you right now with me. Thank you. I think that's like the most I've ever had after a game. So appreciate everybody who's helped to grow this channel. Over 91, I think 9,200 now subscribers here on YouTube. Hoping to get to 10,000 by the end of the season. Probably not going to happen, considering that the Panthers looked terrible today, and a lot of y'all are going to check out. So hopefully, though, you guys will tune in, continue to do that, and subscribe. So please do that, and check out the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Always going to have the live stream shows there afterwards over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me on Twitter at Julian Council. We're on Wednesdays. I'll answer whatever questions you have about the Carolina Panthers. So either at me or DM me to get those questions into me, and I'll get to them on Wednesday. But in the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole. As always, keep pounding, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.